At this point, we may very well have run out of superlatives to describe that sensational knock which Glenn Maxwell played during their ICC World Cup game against Afghanistan, which ensured that Australia sealed their semi-final qualification, but was also a freakishly superhuman knock due to the fact that Maxwell himself was suffering from not one but two separate injury issues because he was having cramps as well as back spasms. Now, to combat all of that and then to continue smashing one big shot after the other, well, that's apparently something that only the Big Show can do on a very regular basis. Yet, as he revealed recently during an interview with a podcast, it does turn out that he's got some old tricks up his sleeve that he used to help get out of what was a pretty precarious predicament against Afghanistan, because at one point, it's worth remembering, he did want to actually retire from the game, but was convinced by the Aussie physio to not do that because it would have been impossible for him to continue on afterwards. So what exactly were the tricks that Maxwell used in order to be able to essentially play with no foot movement whatsoever? It involved some drills that he used to do during the Big Bash League, as well as some tricks that he picked up, believe it or not, on the golf cart on the golf course of all places. So let's quickly delve into what it is that he had said. First thing he said was that one of the things I used to work on before every BBL game, going back about 8 or 9 years, was foot drills where the first 12 balls I'd face, I'd stay dead still but try and hit them as far as I could. Now, if this sounds exactly like the situation that was playing out in front of you during that Afghanistan match, then it just makes things a little bit easier to understand. Although, as he himself revealed, there was a bit of a challenge in comparison to these drills versus actually being in the match situation, and we'll get to that point in a bit. But it's very interesting how this sort of a drill works, because again, if you remember, he was unable to move his feet at all. In fact, at times he was basically playing blind hoiks from outside of off or outside leg, but he was managing to strike them with enough power to ensure that they were either clearing the boundary or go bouncing just 1 or 2 times before getting to the rope. So that's pretty impressive, and we know that Maxwell's a powerful player, but come on, even the most powerful of players would be severely compromised when dealing with not only back spasms but also cramp in their legs and feet. But as I said, it wasn't that easy for him because those drills lacked two major things when it came to the real life situation he was facing against Afghanistan. One, of course, the fact that against Afghanistan he was compromised by 2 injuries, and the second, as he points out, he's saying, going back to the innings versus Afghanistan, I obviously had to tinker a little bit with actual bowlers, not just bowling half volleys outside off stump, but bowling different areas. Now, again, that's the key. During those drills which he would do in the warm-up to the Big Bash League, more often than not, the throwdowns that would come his way would kind of be half volleys and, balls that he could easily clear even if he had minimal foot movement. Here, though, it was very different. They were constantly bowling spinners and occasionally brought back pacers, and he had to deal with that sort of a challenge. Basically, he was not facing bowling simulations. He was facing honest, actual bowlers, and all of them were looking to get his wicket, knowing that if they got Maxwell out, the rest of the team would crumble, given that Australia were already 7 down at that point. So as he said, it needed a bit of a tweak, but that training helped him. But what about golf? Where exactly does golf come into all of this? Well, worry not, this is what he had said, and he said, I think it has a lot to do with the positions I get myself in on a golf course where I'm stuck behind a tree and I have to throw my wrists around or flick it around. It's little things like that. Now again, if you go back to that knock which he was playing, there were many times where he was being very risky with some of his shots, and you can understand what it is he's saying, because in the golf course, if you are stuck behind a tree, then more often than not, you have to be a little clever with the way you're hitting your swing. Otherwise, more often than not, you're just going to end up hitting the tree and then frustratingly going into what could be a tougher position. So the ideal thing is to be able to clear the tree or the tricky course in front of you, and that's where subtle wrist movements help you get the required, let's say, elevation and even a little bit of movement on the golf ball to ensure that it avoids the tree, goes round and gives you a better position to hit your next shot from. That was the trick he was using, and boy oh boy did it come handy against the Afghanistan team, because I think it's safe to say that without Maxwell's knock, there was no way Australia had any chance in hell of winning that match. I mean, let's face it, they were chasing 280 odd runs, but it was Maxwell who scored about 200 of those runs. 201 runs came off his bat, and that's despite the fact that he was playing with 2 major injuries. And what helped him were those little bit of throwdown tricks in the Big Bash League, and surprisingly a little bit of golf. What are your thoughts on the fact that Maxwell used such interesting tricks to actually combat what was a very tough situation? You can let us know that in the comments below, and please don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap the bell icon, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the AajTak app, and if you're already on the channel, go right ahead, check out some other videos that we've done, and stay tuned, plenty more coming your way. For now, from my side, it's goodbye.